Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Coffee with Craig, the Firearms Policy Coalition's daily podcast talking about the Second Amendment, firearms culture as it relates to news, movies, politics, you name it. Please do us a favor. Please like and share this video so that your friends can become our friends and join into the conversation. Now, when I was a kid, my father used to have a saying. It was called, "A hard head makes for a soft behind." Now, it's kind of funny how dads are really good at coming up with stuff like that. I don't know where they get it. They must get it, well, from their dads, because that's where I got it. Anyway, but what he meant by that was that, there's two types of experience that you're going to learn from. One type of experience is learning from the experience of others. Other people experience something, and hopefully you listen to them and you learn from what they went through. Now, the other type of experience is your own experience. In other words, you have to go through something, and oftentimes the result of going through that experience can oftentimes hurt. Yeah, that's right. Stupid should hurt. And so some people, unfortunately, I think all of us to a certain degree learn from both types of experience. If we're smart, we learn from the former more than the latter. Well, there's one particular individual. He's a writer actually for the Washington Examiner. And I was reading a story in the Washington Free Beacon about this individual who, let's just put it this way, was not necessarily an advocate for the Second Amendment, but then at one point let's just put it this way, he got robbed at gunpoint, and needless to say, he changed his mind. Have a little clip from an interview that he did where he kind of explains his change of heart.
Tim Young, one of our regular panelists here on Off Script. He's a reporter with the Washington Examiner. And Tim, today I want to talk to you not about politics. I want to talk to you about something that happened to you personally that still has you shaken. Tell us what happened to you 2 days ago.
2 days ago, I was walking to the New Wharf area from my place, which is very close down there, on a well-lit M Street at 7:45 at night, and I was attacked by two men. One was armed, one grabbed me from behind, and I was robbed.
What did they take?
They took my cell phone. Right.
How'd you feel? I'm terrified. I'm sure.
Terrified. There's no, when I talk to people about this, I'm a comic. You're scared. There's no man card involved. Like I was defenseless.
Right. A lot of people around.
A lot of people. About 6 or 7 people saw this happen.
6 or 7 witnessed to this incident.
Yes.
Okay. And what was their reaction?
Well, only 2 of them called 911. The rest of the folks walked off.
Okay. 2 of them called 911 after. And while it was going on, they just, watched?
Yeah, they just stood by and watched. As I was yelling for help, help, I'm being robbed, they stood by and watched.
Wow. Okay. You saw the story we just did. More people applying for permits to carry concealed weapons. You tell me you're thinking about it.
I'm absolutely going to do it.
Why?
When you're in an instance where there's a gun pointed at you, and your life is being threatened for your property, and no one's going to help. And now I know that no one's going to help. I want to feel more secure. I want to feel safe, and like I have something to defend myself with.
Right. Now, how'd you feel before this incident, though?
I think I took my freedom for granted. I think I took for granted. I grew up in Southwest Baltimore. I've been in some bad places in my life, and nothing had ever happened to me. And I took that for granted, thinking that it would continue to go that way.
Yeah, I don't think she would mind me bring this up. D.C. Congressional Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton was in here, and she says to you and says to me, make sure I ask you, what would you have done if you had a concealed weapon at the time of this holdup?
I probably would have pulled it out to defend myself. That's obviously what I would do in that instance. I think that I had a chance to defend myself in that instance had I had a weapon. Right.
Do you think about the alternative, though? I mean, what if they gotten the weapon away from you? What if they used your weapon on you? I mean, this is what those opposed to,
It's one of those things, but I think a lot of those people who are opposed to having a concealed carry permit and being able to own a weapon have never had one pointed directly at them when they have nothing on them. Right. That level of fear and that level of helplessness that you feel, it doesn't compare to anything else I've felt in my life.
Right.
So, now in the interview, the guy who's actually doing the interviewing, he goes on and he raises a couple of other questions about training and all that, and comes up with all of the objections that people come up with when it comes to people who it comes to being opposed to concealed carry permits. But the fact is, here was an individual who there were people around, and unfortunately for this individual, probably none of them had a concealed weapons permit. Keep in mind, in this area where it was very, very almost impossible to get a concealed carry permit, the only people who had a gun were the criminals. All he's saying is that should change. First of all, if he were an individual who had a concealed carry permit on him, if there were more people concealed carrying in Washington, D.C., maybe, just maybe, robbers would think twice before they actually decided that they were going to rob somebody. But this individual, Mr. Young, also learned something also very, very, very poignant, is that if you are not going to put yourself in a position to be able to defend yourself, you cannot expect anybody else to defend you. And that's what's really kind of odd about some of these folks on the left, some of these folks, these anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment, anti-carry folks, is that they are so willing. They are willing to put someone else's husband, wife, mother, father, daughter, brother, daughter, son. He's willing to put someone else's life on the line to come and defend them. Even though that when it comes to law enforcement, and I have all the respect in the world for those who commit their life to serving us through law enforcement. But let's be real. Oftentimes when seconds count, they're minutes away. And that's because they can't be everywhere. They're well trained, they're well prepared, they're there to serve, but they are not omnipresent. They cannot be everywhere at all times. And so we will tend to be our own first responders. And I think Mr. Young here learned a very valuable lesson. And all it cost him was a cell phone. He's lucky because many people, they learned that lesson, but what it cost them was their life. And here's a case where an individual, I'm glad to see that not only is he deciding to exercise that right, but he's being vocal about it. And he's talking. When I say being vocal, I mean not that he's broadcasting the world he's going to be carrying a gun. I'm saying that he's talking about the importance of it, the importance of that fundamental human right to self-defense. He talked about how violated and how vulnerable he felt because he was deprived of that very fundamental right. Well, now he's in a position where he's not being deprived of it. He just simply has to avail himself of it and take that positive step towards exercising that right. So I say bravo to Mr. Tim Young, not just for deciding to exercise his right, but by being vocal about it and expressing to others why it is so important. Anybody, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please remember to like and share these videos. Tell your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.